In the beginning, the fingers of the water were spread over the whole land, from the foothills of the eastern mountains to the long slopes of the west. And the things of the land lived and died by the water. But the water drew back and left a high plain, and to the people of the plain, an intricate destiny. Here they were ordained to struggle with a hard land and to be changed and molded by its texture. Here they were to carve strange idols from the potent stones and set their altars in the dusty fields. Some of the people clung to the water. They were the wanderers who paused for a while and found the lake rich and friendly. They went out in the dark of the morning in their reed boats. At sunset, they returned with the small fish of Titicaca, and the old Patron changes little. Still today, the women wait beside the water in the black mourning shawls, which they have sworn to wear until the Aymara people again are masters of their own land. The time of their mastery is so far in the past that it is lost even to their own legend. But this much we know: they had an art, a science, and a language long before the time of the Incas, and it has not all been lost. Back of the lake shores were the first communities, called by them Ayus, clans which became tiny states within states. Here the people banded together, first with the ties of blood and economy, then as protection against marauding tribesmen from beyond the lake and the hills. And they found the community good and strong and proof against all conquerors, until the Spaniards came to fight with fire and the sword and the cross. The men bartered quinoa and barley for weapons and tools. The children learned at 4 years or 5 to herd the calves and sheep and scrawny pigs, and to care for the younger ones of their own households. And the women spun and softened the rough wool of the llama, and later the sheep, to weave into warm cloth, for the wind from the lake was strong and the rain relentless, and all their warmth was what their own hands made. But the Spaniards placed their seal upon the ayllus, and one by one turned them into the great haciendas, which yield today the fruit and the strength of the plain. And here, 12,000 feet above the sea, abides a strong, small, singular race on the very rooftop of the Western world. Here they have contrived a sort of contentment. The patient women cook and spin. The young men work and laugh. When they are young, they are secure and beloved. When they are old, they cling to the sunlight. The Patron looks with favor upon the people of the Hacienda Pataca, and with pride upon his own long land. Pataca was a grant to one of his forefathers when the rule of the Spaniards was young. Here on this land today live 200 families. The sun from over the hill at dawn first gilds the rooftop crosses. Fragments of clay and tin and cloth, but blessed with faith, they shield the thatched mud houses from disaster. The houses are small and sparse of comfort, no more than an extension of the earth on which they stand. But the people of the high plain have eaten and slept and borne their children in such houses for 20 centuries. 3 days the people work for the Patron, 3 days they work for themselves, and on the holy days they rest. The tools of the farmer are costly, but the Aymara is ingenious. He has learned at great price to depend upon himself and the land around him. So he makes tethers for the plowing oxen from the long grasses. His plow is one he fashioned from a forked branch. There are few trees here, but the men of the fertile Yungas valleys bring these branches to the Altiplano. Here they plow with oxen. No other beast is strong enough to work so hard in the thin air. But the deep chest of the ox, like that of the Aymara himself, has grown barrel-like in many generations of labored breathing of the scanty oxygen. This is the season of breaking earth, and the men and women have come to a fertile field near the lake, for the Hacienda Pataca is flung far across the wide plain, from the lake to the mountains. Once each week from his home in La Paz, 2 hours away, the Patron comes to look over the work of his land. The master of Pataca is no ordinary Patron. Ringed with tradition as he is, embedded in the old ways which no one man could change, still he looks far forward for his land and his people. He speaks their language, the guttural Aymara, and all his life he has known their ways. He has taught them the new methods of sowing and reaping, to plant barley in the salty lake flats, to nourish the earth for a greater harvest of quinoa, the fair, sweet grain which is as old as the Aymara himself. He has made them believe with him that all the good tomorrows of their whole land will stem from the earth. He has brought machines from the north to speed the work of the farm. At first, the old men were distrustful and amused. Now they believe. when the earth is finally tired of bearing, it may hold another wealth. For here is peat, which is cut from the swampland, dried in the sun, and burned. The Patron has found lime in his earth and is building a kiln for great fires of peat to prepare the lime for the factories of the city. Through many centuries, the water has melted from the glaciers and cut fissures through the earth. But now the Patron is harnessing the water to irrigate the thirsty fields. Thus he will reclaim the idle land so that his people may grow more food for themselves and for the hacienda. 3 days for the Patron, 3 days for themselves. And in these days, the men may work according to their needs. They may weave their own rough cloth on looms which their fathers used, which they lend and borrow within the hacienda. Three days for themselves. This small patch belongs to the man who tills it. He has another on a nearby hill. And the potatoes and quinoa therefrom are for himself and his family. But always in the season of rain, the threat of bitter adversity hangs in the air. The hail of the high plain is a demon which slashes at the crops. So they burn fires of dung and pronounce their special prayers that the hail, when it comes, will not lose for them their season's work. And on the holy days they rest. To a miraculous shrine beside the lake, heavy with legend, they come to dance their travesties of colonial Spain, with curls and silks and posturings, with masks full of terror, and music from the depths of their own past. And at night they pray. Pachamama, Mother of Earth, Maria Purissima, Giver of Life. To the Aymara, she is one goddess, and there is no conflict in his faith. The season for digging potatoes is bright and cold, and the men and women of Pataca assemble to break the earth again and draw out the small fruit of the plain. In the city, they call the Patron El Rey de las Papas, king of the potatoes, and his people contribute well to his title. Now they sort the potatoes, for each size has its appointed place. The large ones they sell to the mines and mills. The middle ones they will freeze during the long icy nights and store for food in the lean days. The small ones go back into earth again. Back at sunset to the houses on the plain go the workers, the sheep and the tired shepherds, back to their quiet houses. For these are quiet people, straight in their lives, melancholy even in their pleasures, faithful to their work, strong with the strength this land demands of those who would live upon it. Now in the evening they will wash the bitter coating from the seeds of quinoa and make the thick porridge. Now they will sit in what remains of the reluctant sun. Now they will hear the canas, which weep so often over the lonely fields by day, laugh at the coming of night. Now the head of the clan, traditional leader of all the people of the Hacienda Pataca, climbs the hill for the ancient delivery of orders for the next day's work. They are to him as his children, and thus he calls out to the dark houses, "Sons, sons of Pataca, tomorrow rise early and go to the north field. We will pack the potatoes to be sent to the city. Tomorrow rise early and go to the north field, for there is much work, and the days of winter are brief."